Homicide detective, having investigated and solved hundreds of cases across the country. He now hosts the YouTube show called The Interview Room, and Chris is joining us tonight. He has been looking very closely at the case of Summer Wells as well. We appreciate your time, Chris. Two things you said on your podcast recently that caught my attention covering this case. The first is 5-year-olds just don't vanish. And the second thing you said is in every investigation, you follow the evidence. So where is this evidence leading you right now with your experience?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me here tonight. I'm grateful. And I think right now the evidence is potentially pointing towards somebody very familiar with that property in relationship to having access to that property.
Why do you believe that?
Well, it's based, on a couple of things. One, obviously, what we call the victim continuum, where you look at what if you have like an L-shaped type of graph, you have environment, situation, circumstance on the left side, and then you would have low, medium, high risk on the right side. And what you want to ask, a couple of questions to is not necessarily how did this victim disappear, but rather why was this victim selected? And you then, inquire into what was the environment, what was the situation, and what was the circumstance? And then you ask, are those activities low, medium, or high-risk activities? In Summer's case, everything stays on the lower end of that victim continuum. So there's a high probability that this child was a targeted victim, and rather than a higher probability of a victim of opportunity. So somebody had to have access to that property to take this child immediately. That was my first opportunity or my first thought process.
The parents are, they're having to answer some very tough questions. They have said they have nothing to do with it. What do you think?
Well, I think, both of those parents have been interviewed numerous times. I think both parents are obviously innocent till proven guilty, like everybody else. But at the same time, the stranger abduction theory has been driven primarily by the parents, whereas law enforcement, even 5 months into this, has not said at this stage it's an abduction.
And listening to Brian's interview, as we just did, where Don said the only thing that she may have done, speaking about his wife Candace, was choose some wrong friends. I hadn't heard him say that anywhere else until tonight. What do you make of that comment?
I think that's a very interesting comment. Maybe she chose some wrong friends. Well, that would go towards the victim continuum hypothesis that somebody would have access to that property, potentially known to those parents.
Chris, I know you went down to Tennessee to find out who Summer was, kind of get a sense of her environment. And when you saw her room in the basement of the house, you say you had a good understanding. Will you elaborate on what you mean by that?
Yeah, I think we can all agree, that 5-year-olds just don't vanish from their homes, from their basements. And in this situation, I wanted to see in relationship to what a potential suspect could see. What were the access points? Could somebody have been lying in wait in the basement? What was her living environment? What was her circumstances around her? And, then of course, I wanted to see what the door mechanisms were, the points of entry, the points of exit. Could you see into that basement? Would a suspect know she was going to be in that basement? So I came to a better understanding of seeing the environment as a whole. There is no door between the parents' room and Summer's room, and it's just a brick wall. It's cold, it's damp, it was disheveled. You can tell, there were some other, things going on there. And, Summer was kind of encapsulated to me in that room. And that's, I came to a better understanding of her victimology in relationship to being a 5-year-old child potentially.
And missing tonight, just vanished. Chris McDonough, we appreciate your time on this case. We'll have you back and talk about it more. Hopefully at the next juncture, we'll have some more information.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe